Behind every successful endeavor in life is a relationship built on trust. Welcome to The Trust Doctor, restoring trust and enriching significant relationships, a podcast focused on helping you nurture healthy relationships. Join thought leader and world-renowned expert on relationship and empowerment coaching, Dr. Patty Ann, and her special guests every week for insightful and meaningful conversations filled with great takeaways that will help you build healthier business partnerships and happier romantic relationships. Are you ready to restore trust and enrich the significant relationships in your life? The Trust Doctor, Dr. Patty Ann, is in.
Welcome to today's podcast episode of The Trust Doctor, restoring trust and enriching significant relationships. And I have an incredible powerhouse woman guest for you today. But before we go any further, since I know you're going to love this interview and podcast, make sure you like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. So today we have a woman who is a beautiful woman. She has brains. She is married. She has 4 children. She is an author. Actually, when I think about it, I don't think there's anything that this woman cannot do. She is a tested business leader with over 2 decades of sales, marketing, and finance experience. She is a business mentor and a dynamic speaker. And as I mentioned, a loving mom of 4 children. She is known for her unapologetic entrepreneurial free spirit. And she is all about financial freedom because her mantra is, it's your life, live it on your terms. She has worked in Fortune 500 companies. She has worked in the entrepreneurial world. And I believe she is an author of a book called Beyond the Lies, The Ways Women Sacrifice Freedom by Relying on Others. And right now, she is the director of programs for a company called How to Manage a Small Law Firm. And if you ask me, and probably most of the people in the firm, this is the brains behind the success of this firm. So without any further ado, allow me the pleasure, put your seatbelt on, because Erika Ferenczi is about to take us for a ride. Welcome, Erika.
Thank you so much, Patty Ann, for having me. And it's such an honor. You know, I admire you so much. So thank you so much for having me in this podcast. And I'm really looking forward to the time that we're going to spend together today.
Thank you so much. And it is a privilege and an honor to have you. So, Erika, seriously, there isn't anything that you haven't done. Maybe you haven't split the atom, but short of that, you've pretty much done it all. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, not just what they can find on the bio, right? Because they're going to read up about you, but who you are, what makes you tick, and how you got here.
That is so interesting. Okay, let me try to keep it concise because we could speak about it for hours, right? So just super.
Maybe we will.
Maybe we will. Maybe we will. I grew up as any other woman, you know, just going to school and having, thinking what career I'm going to go to. I decided to study business administration, have a master's in finance, and then started working in corporate. Started working for a pharmaceutical company, a Fortune 500 company. Actually, I was hired for the finance department, but the person that hired me when I began was transferred to marketing. So that's how I started in marketing, because initially I didn't like marketing at all. I wanted to be in finance. So just typical corporate career, really high ascent, and directing groups of marketing and sales at very young age. I've always, the other day I was interviewing a person because we hire at least 5, 6, sometimes 7 people in the company every single quarter. And it has always been a thing of mine that the majority of people that I am hiring, I'm always way younger than they are. So back then, I was 24, 25 years old, and I was leading groups of people of, some of them men, 40, late 40s, right? And here is a woman of 26 years old. So anyhow, it was very interesting. So that got me started in a normal life. Go to college.
Erika, hang on. I
Yeah.
have to stop you because I think you have a lot to teach us. So here you are, a young woman, 24 years old, right? Working with men that are seasoned 40, 45. How did you negotiate that?
How did I negotiate? I did not negotiate. Went
did
in
you-
and did what I had to do.
Okay,
So let me just back up a second.
sure.
I started working as a marketing analyst. That's how I started in the company. And then after, I think, 8 months or something like that, I got promoted to a manager. And then I got promoted again after 8 months again to another level of management in the pharmaceutical industry. They have different pharmaceutical products. And usually each one of those pharmaceutical products is their own like business unit. So what I was doing is I was responsible of one of those business units that have its own marketing force and sales force. And that's where I was leading these men, some of them in their 30s, most of them in their 40s. And then what was more interesting is that this was a cardiovascular product. So I was working with cardiovascular surgeons. And I was traveling, the world with these surgeons that obviously most of them, with very few exceptions, were men. And they were, late 40s, 50s, 60s, and plus. So that's what it was. And I don't know exactly what you mean and how did I negotiate that, but that's how I got the promotion.
How did you
by
get
always excelling at what I did.
So here you are working with heart surgeons, right? When I say negotiate, let me give a better word probably. What did you do? What was it about you where you were able to influence these physicians, where they would listen to you? What was it about who you are, how you brought your professionalism yourself to the work environment where one, you were not intimidated by these men, and two, you were actually a respected member of the team? Because I know enough about pharmaceuticals to know the pharmaceutical person and the physician really has to be a team for it to work.
So I think that part of it is that I never pretended to communicate or imply that I knew more than them. They were the experts, right? They were the experts on their field, and I was the expert on my field. So I always respected their knowledge, and I always tried to engage with them with relationships that I was always looking on how I could deliver value for them, how I could help them, how I could deliver value for them, and how could I add to their practices, to their professional lives. And I believe that when you engage with people in that way and you are in integrity, meaning that you don't promise something that you can't deliver and you do deliver on what you promise, you just get the respect of men.
So that's
it's very interesting.
Of anybody, right? So you were authentic, you were genuine, and you said what you meant, and you meant what you said. It's awesome.
Yes. Yes.
So when you're flying on these planes, right? Are you flying all over the country? You must have some interest.
All over the world. Sometimes I
world.
went to Greece for 3 days, and then to Spain for 2 days, and then yes, I was always on a plane. Not always, but at least once or twice a month. Yes.
All right. So there must have been some interesting stories you can share where here is this young professional, 24, 25, 26-year-old. Did people mistake you for one of the physician's daughters, girlfriends?
No, they didn't. They really didn't. I mean, they were very respectful. Most of them, not all of them. They were very respectful. They knew who I was. It was unusual to have a woman and such a young person to be in charge of a franchise or a product. So they knew who I was. And since they were cardiovascular surgeons, it's a really small community. So everybody knows who's who. And what was very interesting is that there were a few of them, especially you go to the symposiums and then they want to go drink and go to the bar and stuff. And a few of them tried to be a little bit funny and just go where they shouldn't go. And it was very interesting because there was like 2 or 3 of them that were actually a group that they made it their mission to always kind of shield me from these guys. So whenever we went out, they were always there, and they were the ones that would say, just back off. So leave her alone. It was very interesting, but kind of like a paternal figure. And I got very flattered by that. That never worried me, or I would say, no, I can take care of myself. No, I just allowed them to be men, and I was, who I was, and it was very interesting.
So you had your own little posse that protected you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was very, very heartwarming.
So you're working with all these look, in the field of medicine, surgeons are at the top, right? And then you have cardiovascular and neurosurgeons. Those are the top of the top. So these are very type A, very hard driving men that you are able to get to be your colleague in a way, whereas you brought your own expertise because you had value add and integrity. So I would imagine that that's a theme that has followed you throughout your career.
Yes.
So how did that play out as you moved on?
Well, I think that it's part of who I've always been, right? And I didn't know I was like that until several years later that I get to know myself a little bit more. I'm very, very passionate. And I am very, it's hard for me to be in the middle. You know, I'm 100% in or I'm 100% out. And I just give my whole self to whatever I am doing. So I think that as I moved on, you know, that has been a theme in my life, whether I am, you know, being one of those franchise product managers, or I am being a mom, or I'm being a wife, or I am being whatever in my own business. And then I opened my own business and did the same thing. And then certainly right now with How to Manage a Small Law Firm and working with Arjun Robbins, which you know, it's the same thing, just pouring your whole self into whatever it is that you do. I think that is always a good recipe for success.
That's awesome. And it's, my guess is that you're always open to learning.
Always.
Right?
I can't live without it. My husband always mocks me because I don't watch TV, barely. And I'm always listening to a podcast or reading a book or several books. And yes, I'm always just very hungry for learning.
Right. So how are you, if I may take it to the personal side, overlapping, how did you manage to be 100% all in with your career? And I believe it. And 100% all in with your family, right? Because you have 4 children. I have 4 children. And I can remember literally being exhausted where I literally thought I could not put one more foot in front of the other. And it probably wasn't that late into the evening. So how did you do that? And where does the self-care come into place?
Oh my goodness. You know, I was talking to another woman this morning and she was telling me the same thing. You know, it's just like, I'm exhausted, but being a parent it's hard. So yeah, kids need a lot of you. And when you love them that much, like we normally do, you just want to give them everything. And trying to build your own business. I believe there is one thing when you are an employee of someone else, it's a little bit easier. When you're trying to grow your own business and then raise small children is very exhausting. So yes, my mom laughs at me because whenever, like I can fall asleep anywhere at any time in 30 seconds, right? Because I'm so tired. So, you know, it's just this thing that, I remember that one day I was attending one business conference and the founder of Dermalogica, I can't remember her name right now. I can't remember, but she was on stage and she was talking. And one of the things that she was saying is like, balance is BS, like it does not exist, right? So I think that once you stop striving for perfection and you understand that sometimes you're going to be exhausted and then you need to have more self-care. And sometimes you're going to just, you know, try to do your best. So I think that it's about waking up every single day, grateful for what you already have, and then doing the very best you can in each moment that you're in, and also be aware that self-care is really important. Like I remember when my children were little, every single, at least once a year, if not twice, I can remember very consistently once and occasionally twice, my husband would ask me, what do you want for your birthday? Or what do you want for whatever? And I said, I want, sometimes it was a week, sometimes it was 4 days. I want to go to a spa or a retreat alone. Like, I don't want anybody to talk to me. I don't want to do anything. And that's how I kept my sanity, you know, with exercise, with self-care, and doing the best you can every single day while being present and very grateful for what you already have.
So they say gratitude is the key for so many different reasons. Do you have a morning routine, and has that changed?
I do.
As your family's gotten older? Please share.
Yeah, This particular morning routine I uncovered or started probably no more than 8 years ago. So it seems like a while, but it hasn't been all my life, right? At the beginning, I just didn't know until one day I was exposed. There's this great business mentor. I really respect him a lot. His name is Craig Valentine. And he has this book called The Perfect Day Formula, which is a great book. So anyhow, the idea on that book is that you wake up anywhere between 4:30, 5:30, whatever. My preferred time is 4:30 a.m. But to be honest, it's really hard to get there just because I can't go to sleep early enough to have enough sleep.
By the way,
So
Erika, most people listening are saying, did she just say 4:30 to 5:30 a.m.? But as a mom of 4 children, I hear you loud and clear. But prior to 4 children, I think I would have cringed over that. But I get it.
Yeah, like the first time that he mentioned that, I was like, "What time did you just say?" Anyhow, but there's something magical that happens at 4:30. We're gonna talk about that in a second. However, yeah. So usually I try to wake up between 5 and 5:30, anywhere in there. And in the morning is always self-reflection. That's what I call self-care, right? For at least an hour in the morning is journaling, reading, meditating, reading books, or not business books, but books that are going to feed my soul, reflecting, awareness, silence, peace. And then immediately after that is exercise. At around, depending, 6:15, 6:30, depending what time I woke up, around an hour after I wake up is an hour of exercise that I can't live without. If I don't exercise, I have a crappy day. Not if it's one day, obviously, but if it's too many days, like right now, I've had 2 intense days and I haven't exercised in 2 days, and now I'm cranky, you know? So exercise, then breakfast, and then obviously shower and all of that. And then being just right now, my kids are already in high school, so I see them like for 15 minutes in the morning, just see my kids and then start working, and then trying to end up working at a different time, usually between 6:30 p.m. and having dinner with them. But that's basically my morning routine. And there's days when I'm too tired, so I can't wake up because I just had whatever, and something at night or something. And I know that those days I begin the day behind the ball. I'm trying to catch up with my day, and that's what I do. That's what works for me.
So that's so interesting that you say that, because I have somewhat of a similar routine. Pre-COVID, I would be up at 4:30 and at the gym at 5. Now I've gotten a little lazy because I bought a Peloton. So I get up, I have coffee, but what it's given me is the time that I used to commute to the gym, I now used to read. And it's really invaluable. And then I'll go work out, then I shower, start my day. But to your point, if I don't, I can miss the reading, can't miss the coffee. But if I miss a day of exercise because life has gotten in the way, I don't feel like myself, you know? So there's an addiction there, and they show how the brain, the way when you exercise, it releases hormones similar to addiction, right? It's a feel-good hormone. Now, where does your husband fit into this? Because he's probably in the same bed with you, right? So is he getting up at 4:30 too?
No, let me just say one thing. I think what it is for me about exercise is not, yeah, of course it makes me feel good, but for me, it makes me feel successful. Like I did something successfully in the morning. You know, this whole
McCraven, I just gave a leadership training. You make your bed. I just gave that a couple of weeks ago to a company. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started the day with something that is not easy, because exercising it's always hard, painful. You know, I don't exercise. I train, so I train a little bit harder. But I feel that I conquered my day. Mm-hmm. And that gives me the confidence and the peace. And then I can be in this chair sitting for 10 hours or whatever the time is, or sometimes 12, right? And it's fine because I already did that and I conquered that. So that's more about it for me. And then I'll tell you a little bit later, why do I exercise? Because I don't exercise because of that. But my husband is not a morning person.
Oh, Lord.
So definitely he's not waking up at 4:30. And the first probably 3 to 4 years, when I started waking up at 5:30, 5 or 4:30 or whatever, there was a lot of conflict between us because he didn't like that I left so early. So basically what we've agreed is that there are certain days in which, you know, I do my thing and then we spend some time together in the morning, either we have breakfast or we do something in the morning together. And then we've agreed that there's certain days of the week where we have this, you know, date in the morning. Mm-hmm. And that's how it works. And that's how we have been able to make it work.
That's great. That's right. So how late does he go to bed and what time do you like to go to bed?
I like to go to bed. If I had my way, I would be in bed by 10:30. But the reality is that usually probably in bed by 10:30, but not asleep before 11, which is hard. You know, my preference would be to be asleep by 10 or 10:30. And he usually goes to sleep depending on the day, but between midnight and 1 a.m. Like he stays, like that's the moment when he decompresses. Like he watches his TV, he lays down, he just pots around and he allows himself to rest. So I think that my quiet time in the morning is his quiet time in the evening because the kids are asleep, I am asleep, and then he has peace. It's just a different zone, the time of the day.
That is so interesting. Was there a time when you were a night person like that?
Never in my life. I've always been a morning person.
Me too. And I do agree with, I feel the same way, not that it's right or wrong, but that early morning hour, it just feels like peace before the world wakes up and the craziness starts. And quite frankly, you're probably never really alone again the whole rest of the day, is my guess.
Never, you know, just back-to-back meetings, back-to-back clients, back-to-back, like there's always someone that needs something, right? So yes, never alone. So sometimes my husband laughs because, you know, my alone time sometimes is just to drive. So sometimes I need to go somewhere. And he says, do you want me to go with you? And it's like, no. I want to be alone because that's my moment of silence, right? It's interesting for sure.
You know, I wonder if it's a commonality of, you know, hard charging working moms, because I remember when my kids were little, I used to also love being in that car, dropping off, picking up the time alone. I just felt like I'd blast the radio or I would think of nothing. And I found it very therapeutic, very calming. So we have so much in common, but I suspect there's a lot of women listening that feel the same way as well. And for the men that are listening, the women in your life, they need these things. So it's important to listen to it. All right, at what point did you go from being corporate to an entrepreneur and now back to /corporate/entrepreneur?
At what time? So I worked for several years, and then what happened is that I met my husband, and he got transferred. I was born and raised in Mexico City, and that's where I met him. He was working in Mexico City, and he got transferred. So he got transferred to Ecuador, and at that moment, you know, we had to decide whether to get married or not, or just break the relationship. So we actually dated long distance for almost a year because I didn't want to leave Mexico nor my career or anything like that. Until at some point he came back and said, listen, I can't do this anymore. So if you don't want to get married, that's fine, but we need to break up. So at that moment, I say, okay, let's get married. So we got married, and I had, you know, in my book, I say, I changed the high heels and first class tickets around the world for changing Pampers and breastfeeding. And that's what I did. You know, I had to leave my career, my country, my family, and everything. And then I got married and started literally following him around the world because he would not stay. He's very good at his job. So he would go to a company, fix the company way too fast, and then off he went to the next, the same company, but different countries within the same company. They would promote him and promote him and promote him. And we moved 10 times during the course of 8 years. So
oh my goodness. You didn't have children those first 8 years?
No, we did, yeah. So we got married, and the first 2 years, 2 years and a half, we didn't have children. 3 years and a half, a long time. Then we started having children, and then we would relocate with this baby, right? So That is part of what got me to become an entrepreneur, because I would travel so much and relocate so much that I couldn't get a job. And there's a lot of women that don't want to work, and they are happy just to have a husband that just, keeps them or maintains them. And that was never me. I always wanted to work, and I always wanted to be, have my own freedom and my own life. And it was really, really painful not to have it, although I had amazing children. But I was going insane. Like, some people are going to laugh at me or maybe criticize me, but it is not that being a mother wasn't enough. I loved my children, but I know, and I still love them. But that was not enough for me. I just wanted to have my own.
It wasn't enough for you. It wasn't, and this was before you could really do the remote work and working from home, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's interesting. It's so funny that we feel like as women, we have to qualify and say, I really love to work. I love my own identity. I love making my own money. But that doesn't mean I don't love my children. Like, of course, right? But and I don't know if that's changed that much, right? If you work, it's almost like, what if you don't need to work from a financial perspective, right? Then people look at you like a little bit, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, usually for women that don't work, it's a little bit challenging to understand. When I interact with working women, that's not an issue at all, because they all understand. It is the mothers that don't work that they look at me like she's a little bit crazy, possibly, and they look at me like that's a little bit dangerous. I don't want to go there. But yeah, so that's what got me then to think about, if I want to be able to have a job or do something with my expertise and my passion, that it needs to be my own business, and it needs to be location independent. Like, I need to be able to do it from anywhere. And that's what got me into coaching and mentorship, and then opening my own business, and then the rest is the story.
Well, great. So tell what type of coaching were you doing? How did that come? Share a little bit of your wisdom with us.
There were several parts of the story, but basically what happens is that I went back to school. I became a professional certified coach, and I loved it. And then when I was looking at my background, what was my expertise was always marketing, sales, and finance. So then what I did is that I was helping people with that, helping and working and growing their own businesses, how to attract more clients, how to make more money, how to run their finances, how to run and build a location independent business. And then there was also a big component of personal development, because I've always been super passionate about psychology and personal development and everything that has to do with a little bit of what I call, and Martha Beck calls, the magical world. Right? Not only the ordinary world, the numbers, the strategy, but also the magical world where we manifest things, and when we tap into the divine and all of that world. So what I did is I brought these two things together, with the strategy, with the wealth mindset, with the money mindset, with the overcoming your fears and your belief systems, and changing who you are from the core of your being, so your external results can be a manifestation of who you are at the core of your being. And that's how I did. I did my business. I started my business when I moved to the United States, now probably 13 years ago, something along those lines, 13 years ago. And I started from scratch. I didn't know anyone in the United States, and grew that business to over $1 million in around 3 years. And was very happy, just doing all of that, although I was very, very busy. And that's how it happened.
So were you doing one-on-one coaching? Were you doing group how did you find the time to have that many clients? Because it's very.
I didn't have that many. So I did begin with let's call it the platinum coaching program. So I started with the one-on-one, quote unquote high price. At that time I was charging $25,000 for a year of coaching. And that's where I started, and that's what got me started. So I filled that first cohort of people, and then what I did is that I started launching the masterminds and the leverage programs that are less expensive, but obviously you need more volume. in order to make it work. And that's how I did it. Yeah. But I started with the one-on-one. I always kept a little bit of one-on-one, but never more than 10 to 12. I never wanted more than 10 to 12 one-on-one private clients. So that one was like the elite mastermind, and I would talk to them one-on-one. And then I had the mid-range mastermind that it was all group. And then I had the service in which there's a community, but I had a bunch of pre-recorded lessons, right? That like a community building, they get the pre-recorded lessons, and then they have like a group call once a month. So I had around 800 people in that community. Subscription based. Yeah. There were around 800 people in that community. And it really took me probably a 90-minute call once a month, and then whatever time it took me to record a new course, every month I would record a new course. So it was great. So I had those three things going, and it was a really great model.
So at one point then you were living the dream, and then you switched back into corporate. So what happened there? I'm fascinated by this.
That was very interesting. So I always wanted to get to the place of crossing the $1 million mark, right? That was like everyone wants to get there. So then I did. And when I did, I looked around and I said, okay, I don't want to stay here. I want to keep on growing. But the next level for me to grow into would require to do live events. And I needed to start doing live events to obviously bring more people into the community. And then let me just remind you, my kids are 7 or 8 years old, and my husband is a corporate person, so he's traveling 2 weeks out of every 4, and I'm alone. Well, no, obviously I have help, but my husband's not home, and I'm alone with these kids. Right. So the prospect and the idea of me started traveling around the country to do all of this networking and filling events and it was like no-brainer. Like I was not going to do that. So I was very conflicted. And one night, Arden and I have always been very good friends, and his wife, Ali. So we were having dinner, the three of us together. And I started telling him, I had this great program, subscription-based. I was super happy, but I'm thinking, what is the next step? And I need to start doing these live events, but I don't want to do these live events, and so on and so forth. And it just coincided that at that moment, his business was going through a little bit of troubled times. I mean, his business has always been great, but he needed help with some parts in his business. So he said, why don't you come and work with us? And it's like, are you crazy, Arjun? No, like I'm an entrepreneur. Like I'm not going to work with you for you. And he said, you're not going to work for me. You're going to work with me. We're going to work together. We're going to be partners in this thing, whatever. And I was like, no, I can't do that. That was one night, but it just stayed in the back of my mind. And then I saw him again, probably like 3-4 months after that. And I remember he called me and he said, okay, would you do a project for me? I have this issue. I need you for 2 months. Can you do this? I was like, dude,
I hear you getting reeled in. I hear you getting reeled in. Yep.
That's how he is. Anyhow, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I did that, and I just fell in love with his clients. It's just a phenomenal community, by the way. You know the community a little bit. It's called How to Manage a Small Law Firm, and we work with lawyers. So I fell in love with the community. I finished that project, and I continued with my business. So he didn't reel me in yet. And then I can't remember exactly, probably a year after that, or year and a half, I can't remember. One day he calls me out of the blue. He says, hey, what are you doing? It's like, well, working. And he says, can you come to my office? I was like, I need to tell you something. Okay. So I come to his office and he says, sit down. I was like, okay. He said, tell me everything you need to come and work for me and with me. And I was like, what are you, just like, your Santa Claus list. What do you want? He just said, just ask. I was like, no, because what I'm going to ask you for is not realistic. It's not rational. Like, no. He said, just tell me. And he started writing. And I started saying, I need this, and I did that, and I want this, and I want that. And when we were done, he looked at me and he said, done. You can have it all. I was like, what do you mean you can have it all? He said, yeah, you can have everything. If you come work with me, you can have everything you just asked me for. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, okay. So here I come. And then I started working with him, and it's just one of the best decisions that I've made in my life.
And how long have you been with him now?
2017, I believe. No, I don't believe 2017. So 5 years, a little bit over 5 years.
Well, and so just to be clear for the listeners, so you were friends with Arjan, who's the owner of How to Manage a Small Law Firm, and his wife, is that correct?
Yes, Alejandra, yes.
Right. So was your husband in on this?
Yes, we were. So what happened is that as I was growing my business, I belonged to a mastermind, and Arjun was also part of that mastermind. So I would go to the event with my husband, and he would go with Alejandra. So there was two couples, and we were very good friends. And then it just turns out that we live like 10 minutes. Well, now we live 5 minutes away, but back then probably 15 minutes, 10 minutes away. So when we learned that, then we would meet in between the masterminds here in Miami to just go over our notes and all of that. And we became really good friends, the two couples. Yes.
Wow. So are there ever times when you feel like it's hard to have that difficult conversation because you're concerned that you'll lose the friendship, or vice versa on his end?
Never. He is one of the few people that I can come to and tell him anything. And sometimes he gets mad at me, and I said, just don't get mad. I'm telling you what it is. And he's like, well, I'm still mad. And I say, well, it's okay. And then it just passes, but not with him. I would be concerned with other people, not with him.
That's awesome. So how many hours are you putting in?
Oh my goodness. You don't want to know. A lot. I don't know, an average of probably, depending on the week really, but I would say never less than 60.
Okay, so when you look back now on what you asked for, did you not ask for enough, or you've upped the ante since then?
No, he gave me everything I asked for. I just love what I do. Like awesome. He wants me to work less. I just love what I do. And it doesn't really feel like work. So some days I hate it. There are some parts that are never fun, right? But I absolutely love what I do. I really do. And I have a lot of flexibility. So sometimes, I do this and I do that. And I do a lot of things inside of the business. So it's not like I am just chained to a computer, for 60 hours a week. No, I teach courses, I travel, I do group sessions, I work with the members that we have, I teach different things and workshops. So it's very fulfilling.
That's fantastic. So what, I don't know if you can answer this, but so what would be next for you? Sooner or later, this will sunset for you, sooner or later. What have you not done?
I don't know. I know what you're saying, and sometimes I think about it. But if there's something that happens in this company, is that it changes so fast and it expands so fast that I am always shedding responsibilities I do run the largest team in the company. So I'm always shedding responsibility and delegating and promoting the people under me, and then taking on more things that fulfill me and make me happy. And I do work with Arjun one-on-one in a bunch of initiatives that we're, together. He teaches, I teach, and it's so fulfilling that I could really do this for many, many more years, I believe. So sometimes I think if there's something else, and somehow, we do the way that we work together is at least once or twice a month, we meet for a breakfast just to throw out ideas, right? Or after one of the Genius Network events, we just debrief and we have ideas, and then we start creating these ideas, and there's always a next within what we're doing. So that's how we're growing right now. So maybe one day it gets old, but it's not going to be now.
Well, it doesn't, I'm not even thinking it will get old, because it sounds like it really feeds you in so many ways, which is great. But I was thinking maybe there'd be another adventure where you'd be working together again, and working.
Yeah, he wants to start more companies. But the way that HTM right now is structured, the team that I lead is responsible for 85% of the revenue of the company.
Oh, wow.
So the way that I do is I say, listen, I've got this. You go and build the next company. You go play. You go do whatever you need to do. I've got this, right? So I'm taking care of this so he can go play. And sometimes I go play with him a little bit. And when we have another thing that he's ready to, leave this other thing, maybe we will transition, but not at this moment.
That is so great. So what do you say to the people that are listening that are like, oh my goodness, how can I have some of what Erika has? What are the pearls of wisdom? What are the secrets? What do they need to hear?
I think they would need to hear would be different depending on their situation. Like, I would speak differently to a person that's already an entrepreneur and maybe the problem is that they don't know if they can grow their business, than to, for example, a stay-at-home mom that is just thinking about what could I do. So it's just depending on who we're talking to. But we do work right now. We have around 800 clients for law firms. We manage around 820 law firms across the United States, Canada, South America, and they are all ranges of entrepreneurs, right? They are law firms that are between, I don't know, some of them are just starting and making $2,000, $3,000 a month, and we have ones that are making $45 million a year. So what I would say is everything that you want is possible if you're willing to pay the price for it. Like, you do need to be willing to work smart and for a few years, way more and way different than most people work for, so you can work the rest of your life as most people never will. So whatever they are desiring, it's absolutely possible, but obviously they need to pay the price and they need to work smart and work hard, but more than hard, really, really smart. That's what I would say.
And for the most part, since this is a podcast on building trust and relationships, it would probably be somebody that's an entrepreneur or business person, as opposed to just a stay-at-home mom that would be interested. I don't mean just, but which doesn't mean that they wouldn't be listening. So I think what you said is it's the mindset. The joke for entrepreneurs is you have the freedom to work any 25 hours a day you want to work, right? Right.
Yeah.
So initially you do have to work hard, but you also have to work smart, right? I mean, as someone that works with corporate and entrepreneurs as well, like in the corporate world, there's so much fluff, if you will. You can sort of kind of hide behind a couple of people around you, right? In the entrepreneurial world, for the most part, we're lean and mean. There's no hiding. You have to pull your weight, because if you don't, nobody else can, because they're busy pulling their weight, which is not to say that you're not a team player. But I think what you're saying is it's the mindset of you have to work for it.
Well, I like to use the analogy of like a hamburger restaurant or a burger joint, right? And I think that when you're an entrepreneur, your main goal or job description should be to grow the business, to do business development. And if you were going to start a restaurant business and you were selling burgers, for example, you would have a person cooking the burgers in the kitchen, which is a technician. Then you would have the person, charging the clients in the cash register. You would have a person on the drive-through lane, and you as the owner would be coordinating all of this and doing basically business development, marketing, sales, and all the strategic part of the business. So when we start working with lawyers, right, that they went to school for legal work, it's so easy for them to hide in the legal work. And we see that when I work with coaches, right, they just want to be coaching and they don't remember to be doing the business development. Or with architects, they want to be drawing, blueprints and etc. So people need to decide they can't do business development while they are cooking the burgers in the kitchen. So to the extent that they keep cooking the burgers in the kitchen, this business is not going to grow and it's going to go bankrupt. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that they need to think about is, how do I replace myself in the kitchen? I can be the best chef ever or make the best burgers, but that's something that I can delegate and train. And how do I stay on my lane as the owner, the strategist, and as the business development person? So that's what I would say to everyone. Just get out of the doing in the business and start being the CEO, the owner. Your business can be $50,000 a year. You can still be the CEO of your business. But if you insist of doing all the fulfillment, the business is just going to grow so much and so much every year.
So what you're saying is you can't be a control freak, right? And it's the whole Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan, who, not how, like who can do the
Right.
work, not how. And then also you can't read the label if you're inside the jar, right? So you want to be
Right.
working on your business, not in your business. That is great advice. So 2 more questions. One is, what is the most important thing you've learned about life that you really want everybody on this podcast to hear?
That there's nothing more important than what you want. There is so many people that have been indoctrinated for years and years to self-sacrifice. And sometimes they desire something, or they want something, or they get to a place in their life to whatever life they have. It's no longer working for them, but they get stuck in that life forever because they feel guilty, or they feel shame, or they believe that they're doing it for the kids, or they are doing it for the husband or for the wife, it's just, and they just self-sacrifice. And that's not a way to live. There's nothing more important in life than what you want as a human being. And it is the greatest tragedy to sacrifice your life in service of other people, because you can't give people what you don't have. If you don't put yourself first, and you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself first, using the analogy of the plane, you can't save anyone. So put yourself as a priority, go after your dreams, you're not alone. Trust yourself and just step out in faith, even if it's with one tiny little step that you can do right now in the direction of what your heart is telling you that is good for you.
So I think what you're saying is, I can hear, I think it's the Bon Jovi song, It's Your Life. It's your life. It's your life. All right, then my last question is, and thank you so much for your time. I could talk to you forever. What's the last book that you reread and why?
That I reread, Anatomy of a Calling by Lisa Rankin.
Anatomy of who?
Of a Calling, Calling.
By
Anatomy of a Calling by Lisa Rankin, Rankin, Rankin.
Okay, and why?
Because she is an OBGYN, she's a medical doctor, and she gets to a place in her life where she is very, very successful as a medical doctor, but she's absolutely miserable. And it is to use the Joseph Campbell analogy, right, of the hero with 1,000 faces, is a hero's journey of transformation from the ordinary world into the magical world, into following your purpose, into following what you truly want to do and create and manifest in your life, and understanding that you don't have to stay within the constraints of this little box that the health system is created, or the financial system has created, or the law system has created. You can truly design your life in a way and in accordance to your values, to your dreams, and to your desires, going back to the Life is Yours, right? Actually, that's the name of my company, Life is Yours. And you can do that if you have the courage and the strength to step out in faith into this hero's journey, into the dark forest of the unknown. And you will find the Holy Grail in that journey. And that's what the book is about.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So I actually lied. I have to ask you a question. I'm not sure what the answer is. Are you a rebel or a rule follower?
I am definitely a rebel by distinction.
I hear it.
In my opinion, the rules are only created as guidelines.
Oh, I see rules as a way to keep people under control. Right.
So, I always talk to my clients and our members in How to Manage a Small Law Firm about writing your own manifesto. So I actually do this exercise in which I call it your manifesto. And I call it, in my case, the world according to Erika. And then in that manifesto are the rules by which I want to accept, that I want to live my life by. And one of the things that I've done since very, very early with my children is to teach them to distinguish which rules are okay to follow, because there are some rules that are going to keep you safe. Like, you just don't cross a red light, or don't drive while you're drunk. Like, there's some rules that make sense. But there are some other rules that, you can send them for a walk, because they shouldn't keep you in a box. Mm-hmm. So definitely a rule breaker for sure.
I totally get that. So how can people find out more about you? Would you like to direct them to, I don't know, your book, a website, your business? What?
Yes, absolutely. If you want to know more about me, just go to howtomanagesmalllawfirm.com. You will see that we only work with people by referral. But in there, because we have a waiting list, we have a 6-month waiting list for people to be able to work with us. However, we have several, leverage ways in which we can interact with people and we can begin them in a journey. But just go there. You can download one of our free gifts. We do offer a business building bootcamp that actually the next one starts in June, like next month. We do an event every single quarter where we run one of the largest conferences in the legal industry. We have between 400 and 600 people attend every 3 months. So if you want to know more about me or howtomanagesmalllawfirm.com or Arden Robbins, just go to that website and we're happy to interact with them.
Oh my goodness, I can see why you have a 6-month waiting list. You'll probably have a 6-month and a year waiting list after people hear this and have an opportunity to learn more about you. So that concludes today's podcast episode of The Trust Doctor, Restoring Trust and Enriching Significant Relationships. And I did not lie, because I know Erika Ferenczi took us for a ride. Thank you so much, Erika. This was so eye-opening. Like, I feel like, what have I done with my life after I listened to everything you've accomplished? And probably the best is still ahead. So thank you so much. And thank you to all the listeners. And make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to the podcast. See you next time.
Once again, we've concluded another great episode of The Trust Doctor with Dr. Patty Ann. Tune in next week for more insights and advice on how you can create, nurture, and sustain healthy relationships. To find out more about the podcast, visit drpattyann.com/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share. Until next time.